had this bike come in today. We fitted a D4 bundle to his bike and we put a B6 rear light on the back of it. Do you fancy seeing how we put it all together? Full installation, instructions, exactly how it's done. Keep watching. Okay, so we've literally just finished doing this install. The time now is 2:15. We started at 10 o'clock, but we have been recording and doing all the and doing all close-up photography so we can bring to you exactly how to do the installation for yourselves at home. So realistically, it took about 3 hours to get the D4 bundle put on the bike, but then we put the B6 rear light on, which probably took another half hour, 40 minutes. But with all the talking and everything, obviously it's taken a lot longer. So you'll see on the video, it's shortly going to start. That's around about 10 o'clock in the morning. I didn't actually look, but you'll see it in a second when you start watching the video, and you'll see that flick right round to 2:15 in the afternoon. Before you even start watching it, can you please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and give me a thumbs up, because it really helps with the account and with the channel. Really appreciate it. See you in the next one. Okay, so we've taken the rider seat off and the pillion seat. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take this off here. This is the height adjustment at the for the front seat, but just by pressing in the middle there and taking that off like so. Make sure you remember which way you had it round. That's in the high position. Obviously, you turn it round. That's for the low position. Then what we're going to do is undo this screw, these screws here, but as you can see I can't get to those screws until I take these side panels off here, so I'll show you how we take those off. Let's go and do that first. I need to show how that comes off on the other side. Okay, so we're taking off this side panel here. So there's two screws at the back here. And then what you do is you slide it backwards, like so, and it just comes off. Simple. Now, a good tip, I don't do this because I'm literally working on these bikes every week. The screws that you take out, stick them back into the holes where they came from. That way, you won't get it all wrong, because you'll notice as you start undoing all the screws, they all got the same size thread, but some have got shoulders and some haven't, and if you get the wrong screw in the wrong hole, it actually can cause problems. I've actually broken a panel in the past before by getting the wrong screw in the wrong hole, so it's not great. It was my bike I did it on, so it's it wasn't a huge issue. I've just undone the two screws at the back of the tank, just because I want to be able to get my Torx driver down to these larger bolts. Let me show you on the main camera on a close-up. So I've just undone these ones here, because we don't need to take any of this off. On the Adventure you do, you've got to take this top panel off here, but on this one we don't need to do that. I just want to get to these because I need to loosen this so you can thread the wires through here and run it just underneath the tank. And by the way, you don't need to take the tank off a GS or the Adventure to actually do this installation. So as you can see, so I undid those screws there. Now this is all nice and loose, and do you know what, that's fine. We don't actually need to remove this, as long as it's loose so we can get access under here to get through under the tank. That's absolutely fine. So yeah, it does make it a lot easier if you've got this ramp to get the bike up, but I've done probably 100 of these bikes without a ramp, so it is all possible. It just means you've got to get on the floor. Right, so what we're about to do is put the big mount on the front of the bike. So if I show you over here, this is the modified mount for this particular bike. So this is a mount off the Adventure bike. I'll just turn these underlights on. This is the mount for the Adventure bike, and I've taken a few mils off the side of it so it fits on this bike. and made a new mount hole as well. So that's what we're fitting to it. If you look, that's the original one there, which is just a little bit longer. So if we were to put this one on here, you'll see that it's just a little bit too wide, just a fraction too wide. Right, so what we're doing, you can take off this all this panel here, and by doing it, there's the various screws you need to take off to take all the panel off, so you eventually get this front panel off here. However, it doesn't need to be done. So what we're going to do is we're going to fit it by leaving all this on here, and we're aiming for these tiny little holes just down here. Need the camera again actually to show that. Right, so what we're aiming for, if you look down there, there's a tiny hole. So you probably can't see it on here, but you know, you look at your bike down where you can see my torch is lit up, you'll see like a hexagonal hole, and you'll see one down on the other side as well. Just there, you can probably see that one better. And so what we're doing is we're going to be coming up from underneath. Where are we? There it is, just there. So you see that hole there, right in the middle of the camera? Yeah, so there, and that's where we're going to put the mounting kit. So I'm going to put the mounting kit on now, but I can't keep the camera on it at this angle. But I'll show you it once it's all on. So this is the mounting kit which comes with it. So open this up, and there are actually instructions in the bag for the mounting kit. Okay, so like I say, there's instructions in it, so you can see exactly how these go on. But as you can see, you put the bolt through there. You then put the spacer over the top, which has got like the little shoulder on the top end. So it's like that. So taking the washers, I'm going to place those on top of the holes, just by sliding them through and sitting them literally on top of the hole, like that. Then gonna offer it up underneath. Well, that one's done. That one's through the washer as well. Perfect. You do need patience for this. Just right. That's it. Now, if you're on your own, get some sellotape or something sticky over the end of the bolt, where my hands are holding on right now. But if you've got someone with you, which I have, I've got the customer, the owner of this bike. Could I ask you to come and put your finger where my finger is, just keeping that bolt up?
Yep.
Yeah, and can you do the other side as well, please?
Yep.
Yeah, it's quite heavy. Yeah, so keep it there. So this is the tricky bit, getting the nut over the top.
You got it?
Yeah, just got it. Yeah, that one's on.
So,
Yeah,
that's it, definitely.
cool, excellent. Thank you very much. So with the bolt on the right hand side, you find it easier to get the open-ended spanner coming in from the back, this direction. Now, as you're tightening it, don't go mad, because do you remember I said there's like a shoulder on that spacer? We need to make sure that shoulder slots into the hole on the bike. So what I'm doing is I'm feeling up under here on my finger, and you'll feel the that large spacer, if it's caught or not. Plus you see how much thread comes through. And if there's not as much thread on one side, it means it's caught. And my right side here is caught, so I'm just going to loosen it a fraction, Because if you don't get this right, you won't have they won't be symmetrical. The lights, one light will be higher than the other. And plus, through a bit of vibration, the mount might suddenly jump into place, and then but then it'll be loose again. So we don't want that. There we go. That's now in. Right, so we've now got the mount in place. As you can see, if you look just there, you can see that that modification I do to the mount brings it in just so it's clear of the side panel, the silver side panel on the GS. And you can see now how it's installed. You can see that long spacer just there. You can see the bolts at the bottom, and that is nice and level. Now we're going to fit the lights. Right, so now we're going to get the D4s out. This customer's gone for the D4 bundle with the CANsmart, the sound bomb, obviously the respective mount for the sound bomb for this bike, and also a B6 too early in the day, a B6 rear light. Right, so a good thing to do is, so with the Denali D4s, a lot of people get this wrong. I've seen so many pictures online, and it kills me. So Denali make the light to sit upwards like this. So it doesn't matter, you can do it that way, but if you do, you've got to flick these lenses around. I've said it in other videos before, so it's up to you whether you want to do that before you put it on the bike or after. So I'm now going to ask the customer if he wants the hybrid lens on here, or if he wants the 4 clear lenses. What do you want? So on here you've got the hybrid lens. Mm-hmm. Now with the hybrid lens, the mottled side of it must be nearer the road, because they're floodlights. These are your spots, and so the mottled lens puts light right in front of you on the road, so it lights up literally everything right in front of you. Yeah, those ones go long range, or in the box you get the 4 clear lenses. We can put that on. Either way, I've got to take this off anyway. Either flick it round, because we're going to hang it from the bar. We're not going to sit it on the bar. But if you're hanging it, you've got to flick it round, or you can have 4 spots.
I'll have them mottled.
Yeah,
in the forest.
yeah. But a lot of people, they hang it and they leave it that way round. Yeah, because the whole idea is that the mottled ones are supposed to be getting the floor, and the top ones are supposed to be your spots. Okay, so when you take it off, just make sure that the seal is still in place. Otherwise, it won't be waterproof anymore. Okay, so now we're going to put these on. It's pretty self-explanatory how this works out. The bolt goes in under the bracket. We're taking it to the one that's near it in, so it's a new hole that I've made for the GS. Put the washer on, put the bolt on. That's good. Actually, whilst I'm doing this, I did want to say, I've seen other videos on YouTube where people have got the adventure bar and they've stuck it on a GS or even on an adventure, and you're supposed to put it on with the slanty bit going backwards into the bike, so the lights sit back nicely here. But I've seen some other people do that. It's your preference. If you want them stuck forward, you can. It brings the lights even further forward, but then you see all the mounts as well, so it's pretty ugly. It's your preference, but best option is to buy a mount from me, which I've obviously altered so it fits the GS perfectly. And so when they're on, we then can adjust the height of the D4 by, you've got a slider mechanism on the side of the mount. So we need to get it tucked up nice and high. Just loosen it a little bit. Okay, that's up all the way. And there's a little black cover which sits on top of the nut, but I always stick that on at the end because you'll find it'll pop off as you're trying to route all the wires around and everything. And so when you tighten these bolts on the side, don't go, make them nice and tight now, but you'll get them to a point where they're very tight, so they don't move, but they will move under a bit of pressure, because you will need to adjust the lights at the end when we test them to make sure we're not dazzling traffic. Right, I'm just going to leave the wires here dangling for now. Right, so I think at this stage we're now going to put the CANsmart in position and get it wired up to the battery. So one screw on the side here to uncover the battery cover. So with this one you just leave the screw in the cover. Now, right, there's only one screw holding it on, but you've got these prongs with a rubber grommet. Pull it off nice and straight if you can, and just make sure the rubber grommet is still in place, because sometimes they can fall out and people don't know that they're even missing. So when you're at the battery, you've got it reminds me of the flux capacitor from Back to the Future, but you've got this little cover, the rubber cover. You just unhook that, tuck that up there like so, and then you'll see you've got a little red stopper thing for the positive side, and then your ground is there. Grab the CANsmart. So in the CANsmart you get 3 harnesses that go from the back to the front, but for this job we only need 2 harnesses. We need the sound bomb harness, which is the one with the black and green wires in it, that one there, and these 2 wires are identical. One's for circuit 1, one's for circuit 2, but because we only got one set of lights, we only need one of them, so we're going to use circuit 1. So the other harness can go back in the box, and also in the box you get a little this piggyback wire, which is especially for the B6 rear light, so we'll need that as well. Full instructions in the box too. And then here we have the CANsmart. Get a load of cable ties, you get a USB cable. I'm going to hand that to the customer now because I've got my own cable. I've got my own cable ties. So here we got the CANsmart. It's very self-explanatory when you look at the instructions. Obviously it's easy for me to say that because I've seen hundreds of these now, but we're not actually plugging it in just yet. We're just going to thread these cables through to the battery. Before we do that, it does say in the instructions as well, we're going to remove the 30 amp fuse that's inside here. So what we're doing, so here's the CANsmart here. We're going to thread this through here, and it's going to come out here, and then we're going to take it under here, and then round to here, and then connect it to the battery. But there's a skill here which you need to follow, which makes it a lot easier. So you're going to learn all the tricks of the trade. So tape the 2 ends together, so like so. Now you might find, because it's really hard to actually get this through, it looks easy when you look at it, but quite hard. You might find that ends up snapping off. It's not a problem, because as long as you don't lose it, you can still pop it on, but don't leave it plugged in because it won't get through, in my experience anyway. I just find it better to leave it trailing at the back like so. So pop this through. Now I've seen some people loosen the bolts all around the back here to try and give themselves more room. You can do that if you want to, but I find that it is possible to get it through like this. Always pull this through before you start pulling the harnesses through. So now that's like that. We're going to pull that through like that. We're now going to grab both the harnesses, and we start with the biggest one first, which is circuit 1 harness. So you got one's got a double end and the other one's got a single end. So what we're going to do is we're going to tape this to here. So you pull pull the CANsmart wire all the way through. This does seem like common sense to do this, but a lot of people wouldn't think of this, believe it or not. These are just general life skills to pick up along life's exciting way. So then, now that's taped to there, I've taped it to this cable here, we're going to pull it back through again. Just grab a Stanley blade. And take the tape off. So there's that one. And now we're going to grab the sound bomb cable. Same again, make sure you don't lose that end. A bit of insulating tape. So they're taped together and pull that one through. So there we have both the sound bomb, circuit 1 cable through, and the CANsmart cable is through. What I am going to do is I'm going to plug those into the CANsmart now, just so we don't lose them, just in case someone comes along and pulls those wires. So if I remember from memory, I don't know how I can't always remember this, is I think the longer one, so you'll find you've got 2 plugs which go to the bike, and you've got 4 plugs which go to the circuits. So circuit 1 and 2 look identical, but one of them is longer than the other, and it's all in the instructions. So the ones that have got 3 wires going to them, black, red and yellow, they are for the main auxiliary lights. And circuit 1, from memory, I'm pretty sure is the longer one. It doesn't matter if you get it the wrong way around, because you just switch them around again at the end, but I just want to connect them for now, so I'm going to connect that to the longer one. Clicks into place, so you've now got a waterproof seal. The sound bomb is green and black, so you'll see on here you've got a sound bomb and the B6 rear light. They are the same size plug, so you could get them the wrong way around. So just make sure you get the colours right. We know the sound bomb cable's got black and green. We just make sure we plug it into the black and green one. And then for the rear light, got this little pigtail here. I'll plug that on now as well. And so that's ready for the rear light later on. So right now, I'm just going to leave that like that, and we'll come back to it later. So now I want to do the battery connection. Over there, out the way. And then we're going to thread this through. Right, so to do this, I'm going to undo this little bolt on top. This is like the ECU holder. And the reason I do that is because I want to, it's easier to thread these cables down here to begin with, because there's not enough room down here to do it. So a bit of one of those little tricks I told you about that I like to do. So once that's round there like that, you then push that over the top. So then that's through this section here. So hopefully you'll be able to see that on the camera back there. I'll be able to zoom in on post-edit, but you'll see that's like a little trick, because you'll see that the cable's going through here, but I put it through that side and then slid it around under where the bolt goes through. And that gets it to where I need it to get to. So then, we're gonna pull this through here. So as now you can see, I've got it even further forwards. Let me just grab the little camera, the close-up camera, just in case you don't see that on the... Right, so this is a close-up. So what I did is I actually threaded this through this gap here. I unscrewed this first, so it gave me some movement here. See the movement I get there? I threaded it through there, and then once that was through, I then slid this underneath there, so then I could pull this through, and now that's going there. So now I need to get this here, around the back of here, so it comes through there, so I can connect it to the terminals. So I always say read instructions when connecting these sort of things together, but my simple rule of thumb is the one with the red cover on it, on the right hand side as you're looking at your bike, and we're talking about the BMW GS and GS Adventure only, so I don't want to get into trouble by telling someone to wire something up the wrong way, is because there's a brown wire and an orange wire, and in the UK a brown wire is a live wire. And then a ground would be green and yellow. Obviously on bikes ground is generally black, but it can also be brown. So the ground on this is the brown and the live is the orange, but the best thing to go by is the one that has the fuse. One with the inline fuse goes to the live. Okay, so I'm going to put the ground on first. So I'm just going to loosen the nut at the top. Don't be scared of this, it's only 12 volt. We're not talking about mains here. So you can put the ground on. Tighten that up. And then the live. So because we're now touching the live, you can touch it with your fingers, absolutely fine. Because we're touching the live, you've got to make sure whatever tool you're using on this live does not touch any part of the bodywork, because it will short, because it's all onto ground. So I'm just coming in, making sure I'm not touching anything else. So if you use a great big torque wrench and you come across and it hits the here or the engine casing, it will spark and you might put a mark on your casing. So don't do that, be careful. We attach that. So there we are, we've got the live attached with the fuse in place. I haven't put the fuse in yet, there's no need to. And there's the earth. And then we can push this back and tidy it all up. So I'm literally going to, actually I will put the fuse in now because it's all sealed and everything. So I'll put the fuse in now and tuck this up here and then fasten that back down again so it's all nice and neat. Okay, so there we are. I've put the fuse back in again, it's underneath here. And put the cover on, put this over the top, made it as neat and tidy as I possibly can. Not forgetting to put the little cover back on here. That's on there. And now what we're going to do, don't have to do it straight away, is put this cover back on. Lining up the little spikes with the rubber grommets. Push that in place. And then put the screw in, and that covers on, that bit's done. And because it's now connected to the battery and the fuse is in, you'll notice we've got a little green flashing light. I don't know if you can see that there. That basically means there's power going to this CANsmart. Let's plug it in and test the lights before we put all the wiring harness through. Okay, so as you can see, there's the CANsmart there. Okay, so this plug just here, we're going to undo this, and all you do is, I've seen some people get screwdrivers and prise the side up. You don't need to do that, just put your fingers around the top, squeeze on the wing at the top, and then the whole thing just pulls off, like that. Yeah, that's the bit we're going for, okay? So then once that's off, and you've got that to one side, what we're going to be doing is plugging the only plug that's now available on the CANsmart, which looks exactly the same as that, and plugging that in instead. So that now goes in until you hear the click, and then the other one, which is the same as the socket that's on the bike, now plugs into here. I need both hands for this, so just one moment. Yeah, so the plug that's going into here you unplug it, you plug that into the CANsmart, and then the plug that was going into it from the bike now goes into the socket that comes from the CANsmart. So now every single wire is being used apart from circuit 2, which is here. So I'm now going to unravel the wire that's on the back of the D4s and plug it in. We've gone around the outside of the bike. I haven't wired it through yet. I just want to make sure everything's working okay. And now I'm going to turn the bike on just to make sure the lights come on, which they do. I'm happy with that. Just going to check a few things. Yep, that's great. Make sure we can go into the settings for it. Yeah, 20%. Good. So I'm going to unplug them again now. And before we wire them through, I'm now going to fit the sound bomb. Right, so what we're doing for the sound bomb is that as you look up here, you'll see in the middle of the bike there are 2 bolts going through. Now if you've got aftermarket crash bars from Wunderlich or Touratech or Esmotech, all these different brands out there, they generally mount to this position. Now it's not impossible to still mount the sound bomb, it's just that you have to make an adjustment and an extension to the mount that we're going to fit to it. But as this bike has not got the upper crash bars fitted to the bike, and it's not mounted to those positions, we can just use the sound bomb mount that comes with comes from Denali. So we're going to take out the bottom one of those 2 bolts. Hopefully you can see that. So to get to it, we can either go through there, depending on what tool you've got. You can also see it if I turn the handlebar across, and from the top you can see them just there. So the one that you can really see clearly on the screen, the bottom one, that's the one we're taking out. So it's a Torx 40, a T40. There you go. You take that out, that's now surplus to requirements, so you don't need it. So just stick it in one of the boxes, and then in the kit you're going to get this special mounting bracket specifically for the GS and the GS Adventure, which has a replacement bolt, but just that little bit longer. But it's not a Torx head; it's a hex head or Allen key head, whatever you want to call it. So I always like to fit it to the sound bomb first, and then you fit it to the whole thing to the bike. So when you look at this, it looks like it's the same size all the way over, but there are instructions in that bag. And notice that one of these lugs that come out where you've got the hole it's like 5 mil, or not even that, shorter than the other side. I can see that this is the shorter one, but obviously you can get a tape measure out and check it. So this side is 35 mil, and this side should be 40 mil if I remember rightly. Yeah, that side's 40 mil. So the shorter side goes on the sound bomb. And what you do is you get the bolt that comes in the pack, you put that inside the sound bomb side of it. You then, I've lost which side is the shorter side now. Yep, that one. You then fit the sound bomb to that, fit the bracket to the sound bomb. Put that bolt on top. There's no washer in the pack, there never is. Obviously if you want a washer you have to source one yourself, but I don't think it's needed. It's 13 mil if I remember rightly. And you don't need a spanner at the back because it's it locks into place inside the sound bomb up. But that's now on. And then all we do is we offer this up onto the bike. Now as you look at it, you look around it, it looks the same both sides, but it's not. You've got the bellow, or we're going to call it where the sound comes out of. That's facing front. So the sound's going to come out of there, so it's going to go on like this, okay? And that goes through there into that hole. Right, really good tip. These are tiny little wrench. It's not a torque wrench, but ever so good for getting into those tiny little spaces, and you just put your bit in there. It's ever so good working on these bikes. Right, so I've now got that on. It's not fully tight yet. Now, when you've got it in place, yeah, just push it all the way back towards the suspension arms. It's not going to get in the way. There's like a protector there in front of it, like a cylinder or something. So by pushing it all the way back, your forks are not going to conflict with the sound bomb. Whereas if you try and line it up straight, coming down at the angle which you think you want it at, it then starts coming towards the fork. So you just push it all the way back, and then you tighten it up. So there it is, all in there. As you can see, I've pushed that right back. So as I move the wheel from left to right, you can see it's nowhere near it. There's loads of clearance. So I've seen a lot of people talk about it's just too close. It's because you haven't pushed it back once you put it in position. Right, so now we're just going to bring the wires through. Now, actually, while I've got this bike in this position, if you look at where the sound bomb is, and now we're going to go down to the right, down there, you can see daylight coming out through there. That is where we're going to focus on bringing the wires through, down there. Right, so we've got these two wires here now. It's all about bringing them through here, and we do not need to take the fuel tank off. All right, you're just making more work for yourself by doing that. It's not a lot to do to take the fuel tank off. It's just like it's taking these panels off here and taking the nose off, and then you'll find once you've got these bolts, which we've already undone, the actual fuel tank, it just hooks in. It's not like loads of screws and bolts. So you can if you really want to, but it's not necessary. So I'm going to slide these ones underneath that center part. So there's plenty of room to actually thread it through, as long as you loosen this this bridge piece here, which I did at the beginning. So you pull that one through, and then I'm going to thread the other one through. So I'll take the wires together, so because the sound bomb cable's already through, and now I'm going to pull the other cable through. So all I have to do is get something, obviously with a soft rag over it, just to give a little bit of a lift of the tank. Not taking the tank off, just a little bit of a lift, just so we could get the larger plugs through. So that's now through. So now we've got that there. So this is the bit where we put it all back together, okay, and you sit on it, and we Photoshop out the frame, so it looks like you're doing this cool wheelie. Okay, so here you can tuck it around the back. You can do all sorts of things to get it through, but remember that panel that's going to go on is going to hide a lot of this, so you can literally go over the top, take the easiest route possible. There's no need for you to go around the back of here and struggle with trying to thread the cables through. This is really, really easy. And to make it even easier, which I'm going to do just in case I do have any struggles, I've got this really cool like bendy wire, and I'm literally looking at the channel I'm taking. As you can see, the wires that's coming through here. I didn't steal it. I politely asked an electrician who came around to fit some sockets in my house. When I saw it, I thought, "Can I have them, please?" And he says, "Yes, you can have that." Kind, very kind young man. I probably don't need to use this rod. I can actually reach my, push it up enough inside here and reach my hand in and grab it, but whilst it's here, I might as well use it. So now I can just pull the rod, and through it comes. And there we have them at the front now. So, neat little trick, which I'm sure a lot of people know already. When you've got cable ties, obviously they come out straight, don't they? And we need to get it round a bar, just to tie it up to here, so I need to get it round the back of something. This is such a cool little trick. You just grab a screwdriver or something similar and wrap it round like that. And then when you take it off, it's curly. Do you know that?
Yes, I did.
It just helps you grab your fingers around the back and put it back through again, isn't it? Okay, so now we're going to attach everything, plug the sound bomb in, plug the D4s in, route all the cables up from here, because what we're going to do is the cables coming from the D4s, we're not going to just go straight across, we're going to go up, under here, thread it through so it's all connected up out the way so you can't see it. Plug in the sound bomb now. Now I always forget which wire goes where. There is a plus and a minus actually written on the base of the sound bomb, and the plus is the green wire and the minus is the black wire. So the black goes on the left of the two. If you get them back to front, it's not a problem. You just flick it round and switch it and put it the way around. You'll know if it's back to front because it'll make like a dead duck sound rather than a very loud blast of a horn. So should we just test if that works? So the lights coming on. Oh, the lights won't come on because they're unplugged at the moment. So here comes the horn. Ooh, your button's stuck. You got a sticky button.
Don't use it very often.
Oh, goodness me. Oh, it was. Oh, it sticks in. It doesn't. Oh, it's coming off now. It's stuck. It's
watched it last night.
Yeah, it's stuck in a flipping. That's never happened before. It's loud, isn't it? Oh my god, yeah. Yeah, I think I freed it up now. Oh. And we're not going to cable tie any of this up yet, because once everything's plugged in, we then pull the slack out and leave the slack under the seat. We don't want the slack under here. Start threading this somewhere. So I'm going to leave the circuit 1 cable here, just dangling down, and I'm going to try and get these up nice and high. So what I generally do is I like to go under this panel, which means you might have to remove, or you will have to remove, a couple of screws around the back of the silver panel, just so we can get it round and channel it through here so you don't see any wire at all. As you look along the front of the bike at the side, you've got a screw, a bottom screw, which is just there. We're going to undo that. And that means you can that moves out a little bit, that side panel. And all we're going to do is just slide the wire through where the bolt was going and push the wire up. Is there another screw? Yeah, there's another screw as well, the one higher up. So there's two along there. So you take both those screws out. And now the cable is up nice and high. I can literally feel the cable coming in at a nice high point, so you won't see it when it's all done. It literally disappears. It exits from where the light is as soon as it comes to the bike, rather than dangling somewhere. It's the neatest possible way. So the wire's now here. And from here, Like you could take this all this panel off here. You could take the whole lot off, and you got better visibility. I'm just being really lazy here. And then I'm now going up. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to do the other side first, because the next bit I can lower the bike. So let me do the other side first. Razor sharp edge that is on there. Careful, razor sharp edge. So yeah, both coming out both sides. So now it's like that. We can actually screw those bits back in again. Very neat. So I'll be honest, it is easier to do this bit here if the panels were off, because you can see what you're doing. So it is a bit tricky getting this bit, but we just want to get the plugs up nice and high, because the higher they are, if you're going to be off-roading your bike and you're going to go through water, deep water, although they're waterproof connections, we want them out of the water. The general rule of thumb is, if you're going through deep water, the water's got to be below your air intake. So if you can get your plugs up to where the air intake is, perfect. This is a bit tricky because you have to like get it through a hole and then twist it. You go through another hole. Okay, I've got it. I've got it. I have got it. Yes, I have it. Take the slack out. And I will put the close-up camera down here so you can see exactly where the cables are coming from once I've got the other side through. And you haven't got a fiberglass rod like I've got. You know what the best thing to do is, don't you? Coat hanger, an old coat hanger. So with the right side, you can't quite take the same route as the left side. So I've come out a little bit lower down. The wires come up behind the radiator and the fan, gone across the top of it, and don't worry, there's a cage around the fan, so the wire can't get into the fan. Plus, we can cable tie it to some things, which I will be doing. It's just it's going to be very hard to show all that on camera, but I will show close-up work of where the cables come through. So you can see that cable there coming out with the orange tab on it. That is for the left side D4 light. So I've pulled it through there, and what I'm going to be doing is securing that very close to the body of the bike and bringing it round and making all the attachments in the middle of where the frame all comes together. Where you see where all the frame comes together, the white of the bike, all the connections are going to happen like in that little that A shape that you see that down as you look down the bike. It's all going to happen there, completely out of the way. On this side, on the right hand side of the bike, I couldn't bring it out as high, but as you can see, it's coming out just above the radiator. And then same again, I'm going to bring that up, cable tie it nice and tight to the frame, and it's going to come in the middle as well. And then all we need to do then is bring the cable that is coming up from the front of the bike, which is from the CANsmart, to connect to it in that point right at the front of the bike. So I think we started at 10 o'clock, so I've got a clock up here, and it's 10 to 1, and obviously I've been taking a lot longer than normal because I've been talking and I've been recording and stuff, and so just to get all that on takes, you put aside 3 hours and you get the whole thing done. But obviously we need to put the B6 rear light on as well, because this customer's bought the B6 light. Okay, so I'm now making the connections. There you go. Right, so all the wires are plugged in. Now we just need to tidy it all up. So let's try and show that. So bearing in mind, this is not cable tied in. Everything is not. It's not a neat job yet. It is neat, but it's not. I haven't tied it all up yet. So the cable that we know is coming from the left side is going through into the middle, and the main CANsmart cable, circuit 1, is coming up, and I'm going to attach it to the front strut coming up on that frame, and then on the other side, you can see it's well, can you see? It's just it. You can see the cable coming up there, and the connection's just there. So I've gone underneath those black wires there. So it's the wire that you see coming in from the right, going across, and that actually is the connector just there. Okay, so we've got lots of slack cable, so I'm going to start pulling the sound bomb and the CANsmart cable through, although I've already cable tied them on. No one said I was infallible. Right, if I use grey cable ties, you won't see them because they're up underneath. It's just they're nice and long and really easy for me to get to. So I would recommend getting really stupidly long cable ties. Like these are, how long are they? Quite useful data, isn't it? Someone doing still. These are 38 centimetre, 380 mil. Unfortunately, they are grey, but these ones are going up right up inside. And the reason super long is really handy is because you're reaching your hands in there, and you need to start finding the skills to attach cable ties and thread them through all with one hand. You need a lot of patience. Now that was a short cable tie. I'd have been here a lot longer. I've got it through. It would have taken a lot longer. Never attach anything. The golden rule is when you're attaching the cables to stuff, just don't attach it to anything that moves. So don't attach it to the, I don't know what it's called. Is it the wishbone? It looks like a wishbone because that goes up and down. So don't attach anything to that. I'm literally coming from the sound bomb, and it's going straight to the, well, I'll show you. I will show you in a moment, but it's going straight to the frame of the bike. So everything that moves underneath the frame, which the suspension is connected to, like the wheels, the forks, nothing is connected to that. Right, so here we go. It's all nice and neatly cable tied up, so I'm hoping you can see this. You can see the two grey cable ties down there on the framework, and the black wires are running all the way down, not touching anything else on the bike, just going all the way down to the side of the bike. So all nice and tidy. I haven't cable tied the ones at the top yet, but underneath that is done. It's a finished job downstairs, so to speak. So now I'm just going to cable tie the wires coming up, so it's all nice and neat at the top. And then when you do that, you just want to make sure that the forks don't touch the wires, because if they do, you want to redo it and find a different way of doing it. But that's all clear. Got loads of room around the wires and the top of the forks. So now the other side. So again, just checking the clearance. Perfect. As you look down there, you can see it's all nice and neat. Cable comes from the left, goes into that central area where the cable from the CANsmart, you can't see the cable from the CANsmart because it's coming in like from underneath, but you saw it from the front, didn't you, where it comes up. And the same on this side. Oops. Hopefully you can see that. And that's all going through. It's cable tied to the frame and going through, so there's no loose wires anywhere. It's all nice and tidy. Right, so now we've got all this slack here. You can do what you want with it really. You can curl it up in here, or you can curl it around the back. So first of all, what we need to do is get this secure again, so everything's in the right place. Oh yes, I'm just gonna put a cable tie on this side. I did put one on earlier, but I forgot to pull the slack through, so I had to undo it. Right, so that wire's nice and neatly tucked under the side of the tank, and everything's in its right place. So now I just need to put this back down and put the side panels back on. So now putting the side panels back on. Oh, wrong side. It's pretty obvious when it gets closer. So remember, I left the screw inside it. So you've got two locking pins. You push them in and slide it forwards. Like so. And the same, the other side. Okay, so that's all back together, all the front part is. Now it's all just stuff at the rear. So let's tidy this up at the back. And with this cable, I think I'm going to channel it around the left side, so the opposite side to where the cable is for the CANsmart battery power. Just going to tuck it down. Like you can actually just literally lose all the slack down there all completely. You can literally just lift it up and tuck it down there, which I'm doing right now. Right, let's show you a close-up. So there you have it. The wires, the two wires are coming out there. I've tucked them down the side here, and I've got quite a bit of slack all curled up down there in the corner. It then runs along the back there and then goes up, obviously, where we channeled it through at the very beginning. Very neat job. So what we need to do now is put the height adjuster, which I remember rightly, the customer has got it in the high riding position. So push that in place, click it down. At this stage we're now done, but we're going to fit the B6 tail light as well. But that's a completed job as far as the D4 bundle goes, with without the B6 rear light. Now the final piece of the puzzle, the rear light. The little black covers that go on top of the D4s. Just pop them back on, and that just makes it nice and tidy. So before we attach it, we're going to test it. There you go, it works. Now, as standard out of the box, it's set to some kind of American or Californian braking. So when I hit the brake, you get that. Okay. Yeah, all right. So, but we can program that all through the CANsmart when we plug it into the computer. Okay, so with the rear light, the first thing we're going to do is just lower the rear section of the bike down. They're quite deep recesses. It's just 2 screws, and they're the larger than they're slightly larger. They're a T, I think they're a T30, but they're slightly larger and with a big shoulder on them. So you don't want to confuse these with anything else on the bike. And they are not easy to get back in again, I'm afraid, because it's so deep up inside this this piece of plastic. So once that's like that, we lower that down like so. Right. So what we're going to do, I'm going to give the customer the option of where he wants me to thread the plug through. So you can either, as you open it, you've got 2 drain holes down here, which there's drain holes because water gets into the bike. So I can either thread it through one of them, but I need to drill that hole bigger, or I can run that cable along here and enter it into the back here, and then put little clips on here.
Through the drain hole.
You want me to go through the drain hole, yeah?
Definitely.
Okay. So what we can do is, obviously the customer selected to go through the drain hole, so I need to drill that hole a bit bigger. Or you can run it along the bottom, and it goes in the same entry point as the indicators go into. But anything by doing that, it means you've got an external wire traveling for about that kind of distance underneath the bike, and all I do is, when we fit it like that, I just get these tiny little black self-adhesive clips, and you clip it underneath. You clip it underneath here, so it runs along that. So you still want to go through the drain hole, yeah? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I go through the drain hole. It's a neater job. But it does mean drilling a hole in a very expensive brand new bike, which some customers don't like to do.
I knew I was going to drill a hole. If I was doing that, I had to drill a hole.
Would you? It's quite a big drill bit as well, because the wire is small, but the plug's actually quite big. Right. So if you're going to be doing this, make sure you've got clearance. Make sure you're not going through the customer's tyre. There we go. So hopefully you can see that on the camera. There's the hole. So you already had drain holes there anyway, and we just made that one bigger. Then it goes through there. Then we connect up. So getting this bit here, if you don't know what you're doing, it's very frustrating. So it's you see that little hole just there, you've got like a letterbox just above the reflector. There's a piece coming from the back of the bike which it's got to slide over first. So if you just push the whole thing back, it's going to conflict with that. So you've got to push it back, go up, bring it towards the rear light a bit, pop it up, then push it back again. And this is the bit that requires the patience. Like, I've done it first time, but I remember back in the day, well, it's only a couple of years ago. I'll be here for absolutely ages trying to get these screws in. You have 2 choices how to mount this. You can either drill holes through here, yeah, and we can use the yellow screws. It's perfect because yellow's because I get some bikes, and he's tightening up. I get some bikes where the letters come very, very low, and so it's you need some black screws. So the yellow screws is the best way forward. However, I haven't got them here in stock. So it's a Halford's job to go to Halford's and pick up some screws and put it through. What I do with my bikes, with my current bike, you can't see it because it's not here, is I just clean up this surface here, and I use 3M self-adhesive double-sided tape, you know, like spongy stuff, and it's strong as anything. I do get customers, when I mention it to them, they go, "It's going to fall off." Now, I had one customer who brought, I get this a lot, and a lot of my subscribers know this, I get a lot of customers who buy their gear from somewhere else because they haven't heard about me, and then they go onto YouTube and because they don't know how to fit it, and they find me, so then I install their gear, you know, their kit they bought from somewhere else. So I had some guy come along with a B6 rear light which he bought from a competitor, and it didn't work. It was just faulty out of the box. So we plugged in another one just to show it was the rear light, but we'd already stuck it on. Hence why I always test it before I put it on. We'd already stuck it on, and he was very sceptical, thinking that's going to fall off, but then we struggled to get the thing off without breaking the number plate. So it is very, very tough.
Yeah, I'm happy with that.
It is very tough. Well, this is an adhesive motor made by 3M, so it makes the adhesion work better. So all I've used here is some adhesion promoter with a bit of a sponge. I've cleaned the surfaces, and this just makes it nice and tacky before I put the sticky pads on. You can, however, screw. There are fittings on the B6, so you can actually screw it to it, but the customer's happy for me to use sticky pads. Yeah, that's good enough. And now we just need to pull the slack through that we've got. Okay, so we're just clamping that on, so it's just whilst it's in place for now. And as you can see, the wire comes from the back of the B6 rear light. I've put a little attachment clip on the back using self-adhesive tape, and it goes up, another clip just there, up through the drain hole, and then comes through here and attaches there. So what we need to do is tidy this up. Job's a good one. Right, so now we're going to plug the CANsmart into the computer. Let me turn the bike around so you can see what happens to the lights when we're doing things. Right, so we're going to plug the CANsmart into the computer. There's a little waterproof bung which you have to take out, put in a safe place because they're very easy to lose. You plug in the cable that comes with the CANsmart into the USB into the side of your computer. Firmware update is available for your device. It's very simple, you just follow the instructions. Okay, firmware upgrade completed. Switch the ignition on. All the lights are on. Yep. Okay, so to set this up, I don't know whether you can see this very clearly or not on the screen. The very first section here, this is circuit 1. That's what we're going to be playing with because we haven't got anything plugged into circuit 2. We're not using that. Then we have the horn section. Sounds like an orchestra. And then we have the rear brake light section. So starting with the circuit 1. For high beam, we've got 100% for day intensity and 100% for night intensity. For low beam, so that's just riding along dipped. For day intensity, we've got it at 50%. I'm going to put that to 20 for now. The customer might decide to change his mind after we've done this, but I like to set it at 20%. And as I'm doing that, you can see that the it thinks it's night time because we're indoors. So if I play the night intensity, you can see it getting brighter. So that's me adjusting through the CANsmart, the app on the computer. So I've got that at 20%, but I've also set it to 20% for daytime as well. So so when I flash on the bike, that is now 100%. but you can adjust it on here as well. And you don't have to, you can adjust it on here as well, which I'll show you. So then also on that whole light section there, we can turn off the active turn signal. So if I indicate right now, you should see the light, the D4 lights have gone off, correct? Yeah. All right, so let's cancel that, and then the D4 lights come back on, yeah? I can't see, I'm getting someone else to confirm it. Now if I turn that off on here, you'll now notice that the light has stayed on, yeah, whilst we're indicating. That's my preference. I'm now going to ask the customer what he would like. Yeah, okay. You find that if you do have it set to where they turn off when you indicate, and you're traveling down a really dark lane, and you're turning on somewhere, when you indicate, it feels like you've turned your lights off completely, because you get so used to that extra bright light. So I really wouldn't advise you to have that working like that. Right, so strobe when the horn is active. So if I hit the horn again now, which I will, you'll see they're going to strobe. Yeah, you can turn that off. Strobe to flash to pass, that is turned on. So if I flick the flasher 3 times, 1, 2, 3, we get the strobe. You can turn that off if you want to. Inverse flashing when hazards are active. Right, I'm going to turn it off right now so I can show you what I mean. So if we put the hazards on right now, that's how my bike is set up. So the D4 lights are still on. And in this state, if you turn the ignition off, your hazards will still flash as well. So if I turn that off, and now I'm going to flick on the inverse flashing when hazards are active, and you get that. Now I've already confirmed with my customer that he wants that feature, yeah? Yeah. Okay, so we're leaving that turned on like that. All the stuff that's greyed out isn't necessary. We don't need to know about any of that stuff. So just turn that off there. This is circuit 2 here, so just ignore that. It's irrelevant, nothing's plugged into it. Horn is enabled, obviously we can turn it off if we want to. And then the rear brake, I've currently got that on 10%. So if I go to the back, you can see that's at 10%. Now if I change that, I can go to 20%, 30, 40, 50, right up to 100. That's 100%. Obviously we're not going to set it at 100% for a running light because you're not going to notice the brake. So you can take it right down to off. So it only comes on when you brake. You don't have it as a running light at all. But I would recommend 10%. It's a very, very bright light. It's a lot brighter than the OEM light, as you can see. So 10% for running lights and 100% for the brake. And even that's debatable if you want that because it's so, so bright. Brake's on the right side, isn't it? So I'll show you. So I'm just reaching my foot forward on the brake and you can see how much brighter it gets. No, I haven't quite got it. I reach it there. That's at 100%. Obviously you can play around with that and you can put that right down to 60 or 70 if you want to, which I know some people actually do. That's it. There's other diagnostics on here, so you can see what the peak is and how much is being used in the circuit, and things like that. The other thing you can do, which a lot of people don't realise, so circuit 1 is maxed out at 10 amps. But if you click on that, you can change it up to 25 amps. It's not necessary. The D4s, well, if I go back to diagnostics and look at, well, they don't call it circuit 1, circuit 2 on this bit. They call it red circuit, orange circuit, yellow circuit, white circuit. And the red circuit is circuit 1. So as you can see, it's peaked at 8.89 amps. So 10 amps is fine. If you wanted to, you could crank it up a little bit, but there's no need to, because if there's a problem or an error, you don't want to have the amps too high. But if you wanted to put more lights on this circuit, then you would adjust the ampage on that setting. Right, I think that's it. So, oh, sorry, on the on the brake lights. So I've got it so it's no flashing. So so when you hit the brake, it just doesn't flash at all. But you can change it to brake apply flashing continuous, brake apply flashing Californian legal, auto flashing, deceleration activated flashing. Now I'm just going to check with the customer whether he wants that. So not even when you're braking, just the bike slowing down drastically through the gears,
No.
you can have it braking.
Flashing here is emergency braking.
Auto flash. Right, okay. So just no flashing at all. It's just that bikes slow down, don't they, quicker than cars. So if you're slowing down aggressively, you're you really like you can have it flashing if you wanted to. So right, so that's all turned off. Right. So you can turn that off. And we're going to unplug the CANsmart and put the seats on. The customer's ready to go. And don't forget the little rubber bung which goes into the CANsmart after you've unplugged it.